Mother has always been the contempt one. She's always tried her best to be there for me in every way, but she never really got through. Since Father's passing, she's been as distant as ever. I don't see her as much as I'd like to anymore, and yet I don't blame her for being distant, for wanting to be alone, for not preparing me as one should their child. I do not blame her, nor do I loathe her. Before I was born, my father snuck off to England, and that's when he met my mother. Since Father needed an heir, and my mom was already pregnant with me, it was told that I would be born in London, my mother's home city, and then whisked off to Scotland to train, so when it's time, I'd be ready to become head of the Emberly house and family line. Until then, I'll be more than happy to be condensed with training. Anything that should help me in the future. Anything at all. You are to marry and have children with the Earl Ciel Phantomhive. That's when my entire world flipped. I was to not only marry, but bear the children of some man I know absolutely nothing of. This, of course, is an arranged marriage. I'm sure your mother has told you we would be wedding you off to an Earl soon after you turn 13. It just so happens that the Earl Phantomhive is looking for someone now. It's a year earlier than we expected, but nonetheless an engagement that we approve of. Excuse me? So I'm just supposed to accept this? I'm sorry, but no one told me. It's settled then. Don't interrupt me. Who do you think you are? I am the heir, soon to be head of the house. No one talks over me. And yet, that is just what they did. Please prepare the luggage for her mistress. Around me, bustling servants, carriage drivers, and Emberly members I'd never met before dusted me off over 1,000 times, while telling me how important it was for me to be on my best behavior. I mean, what did they think of me? Some kind of monster child? I am well behaved, and I have excellent manners. I might not have much experience, but that certainly does not differ from anyone else. I'm just as capable on my own as a captain of a pirate ship who would be, and I will stand by that claim until my last breath. It's time, Mother says from behind. My things were all packed up and ready to go when we stepped outside. The beautiful lanterns on the property excelled at making me drop everything just to stare at them. They illuminated the carriages, bright colors, and it was then when I felt the actual dread of leaving my home. I don't want to leave. I never did, and I don't want to be married or engaged or whatever. I don't even know this boy. Oh my god, no. What if he's a grown man? I don't want to be sold off. But that's exactly what's happening. I need to find an escape route. Maybe change my name and get plastic surgery or wear a mask while in public. How barbaric. I hate this. Wyan, are you listening? What if he tries to make a move on me during the month I'm living there? Oh, I'd just like to see him try. I'll sucker punch him right in the jaw. That'll surely teach him. Wyan. I look up. My mother adorning an irk mark ever so beautiful. Yes, I smile as innocently as possible. The phantom boy is extremely handsome, as I've heard. You will do everything in your power to make sure this arrangement goes splendid. Is that clear? She sounded like she was biting down ice. Of course, Mother. I nod in agreement with myself. I wouldn't have it any other way. Your gaze shifted from the sea to the landing docks as your palm rested under your chin, your elbow placed gently on the black wooden table beneath you. You were arriving in London for the first time since childbirth, and weren't all that psyched about it. You were originally living in Scotland due to some family feud, and reclaiming some noble throne. Interestingly enough, you were the center of it all. Your mother had given birth to you in England, London. Something she hadn't known when she and your father were conceiving you was that he was the head of an infamous lineage and needed an heir, as he was coming down with something non-treatable at the time. This meaning you never really knew your father. When you were old enough to understand, he had been bedridden for some time and had been kept away from you most of the time, though being trained to be the next head of the Emberly family took up most of your time anyway. He died then, shortly after your 9th birthday. You only saw your mother once a day, twice on good occasions. You would see her in the evening when she wished you a good night, and on those certain occasions you would see her in the morning, where you would have breakfast together. Usually, though, she would be too busy setting up a nice brunch for her and some women who had been put in the same position as her, who had also given birth to continue a certain family bloodline. However, it's not like she was a bad mother. She constantly tried to be there for you whenever she could. There just, sadly, wasn't enough time in the day, and when your father died, it seemed there wasn't time at all. Now you are stepping off a boat onto the grounds of London because your significant other had been chosen already, and you were on your way to finally meet him. Your mentors had went over the plan with you 1,000,000 times, more if possible, so you had the exact idea of what to do and of what absolutely not to do, mess things up. You went over that plan in your mind, the voices of other Emberly family members echoing in your head like an old man listening to the same radio station play a certain song on an endless loop, hoping that every time it ends, a different song will play, but never does, and that man can't change it, even if he wanted to. The plan surged through your head. Stay with him for a month, get to know him a little, then one day, out of the blue, he'll ask you to dress nicely because he'll be taking you out, and on the outing he'll tell you to turn around, and you'll listen with a happy smile on your face because you're excited. You'll hear the sound of him slowly start to bend on one knee while he swiftly pulls out a black box with a ring perfect to your finger size and ask you to turn around. Many people will gather to see this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity and gape at the beautiful sight. "Young love," they'll say, and you will blush immensely, waiting for the exact moment he pops the not-so-long-awaited question. You'll then pull him up by his hands and make him hug you as you do your absolute best to contain your excitement, and you won't mess things up. You won't, you told yourself repeatedly. You absolutely won't. Lady YN snapped you out of your thoughts. Your eyes shot up, but your body stayed stiffened. "The carriage is ready for your departure." Sure," you said, not really minding what the words meant. You began to move your timid body. The corset and dress around you did not help. You stood straight with the help of the black desk you were sitting at. No time to check the small mirror to see if you looked okay. No patience given either. You stepped onto the docks and saw a silver-painted carriage with blue streams trying to escape off the top in the wind. Family colors, huh? You thought, absent-minded of the red ribbon in your hair, also trying to escape. I wonder if it's too late to be reborn. You then wondered aloud to yourself with an empty chuckle at the end. Stepping into the corresponding carriage, you let out a sigh while closing your eyes. Are you ready? You asked yourself, letting only the cold air that flew into the carriage hear. Not in the slightest, you answered under your breath. The carriage began moving at a slow but rapid pace, and it was this time that you used to explore the city of London. After all, you didn't know when you would be able to see it again, since you had heard your soon-to-be fiancé lived in a mansion far from it. The people, the children, the animals, the shops, everything looked lively in your eyes, so much more different from what your previous world had been. In the corner of your sight, a large black gate came into view. It reminded you of the pitch-black desk you had been sitting at just this morning. The gate opened without a word of commotion, letting you through warily but gracefully. As your ride approached the front doors, a boy and a man could be seen standing in the front of them, waiting. Your eyes fought to adjust to the darkness, as to see the boy a bit better. He, you knew, was the one you had been told to love. The carriage came to an abrupt stop, and the driver stepped down from his post. He walked to the back and offered your door open. He then offered his hand, and once again, without a word, you took it. Soon, your wavy locks of hair would be dancing in the winter wind, and your red ribbon you had so pleasantly knitted in would be threatening to disappear into the dark and cold London night. The porch light, which had only been emulating the shadows of the two gentlemen, now shone on their faces brightly, and for the first time you could clearly see the one they called Ciel Phantomhive. Your eyes glistened when you saw him. You had drawn pictures in your mind, but none that could ever dare to compete with the actual boy in front of you. He was of the most handsome of boys. A full-grown man couldn't compete in your thoughts. You must be Countess Emberly. He held out a hand, a glove so eagerly wrapped around it. That would be me. Slight sarcasm surrounded your sentence. You enlaced your red glove with his black one and followed him inside as the whistling wind seemed to get further and further. The man next to him said nothing, nor did you. You did, however, get the chance to see him bringing in your luggage from the carriage. Ciel guided you through the house and up the stairs, which had a magnificent beauty to them in the dim lighting. This is where you will be staying. My room is directly across from it if you need anything. And just like that, he was gone. He looked so dashing at first. I thought he'd be kind enough to at least look at me. This, however unfortunate it was true. Ciel did not spare you a single glance. In fact, when he extended his hand to you during your time outside, he didn't once look you in the eye. You did not completely comprehend his actions, but didn't completely blame him either. He's in the same position I am. You tried to remind yourself. It's upsetting. But this does not only affect me, it does of the entire future of the family. This was at my future. It is unavoidable. As much heartache as those words gave you, it was still very much true. They pained you, but you could not pity yourself. You were not allowed to. After all, you were not here to fancy him. You were here to marry him. You wiped the flawless tear that ran down your cheek alone and held in the rest that dared to follow it. As you grasped the doorknob to your new room, you laughed at your way of thinking that your mom would say, "At least our babies will be cute," or something like that. What are we going to do with you? You asked yourself, a painful smile sitting on your face. You ignored the desk and mirror board and made a straightaway for the bed. How it looked so comfy in your eyes. You felt the need to just pass out. The feeling engulfed you as soon as you were back on one of the side of the large bed. The closest to the door, looking like a newly dead person set in a coffin for viewing. Your dream was nothing short of a nightmare. There you sat on a throne, in a cold, dark castle. Everyone bowed to you. They trembled when speaking with you, and from the corner of your eyesight, you could see a woman in the shadows. No, this can't be right, Mom. Mom loves me. She wouldn't use me. I'm not a tool to her. I'm her daughter. The only thing Father left her. I'm not being controlled. Swarming your heads were these thoughts. Then something hard fell off your head and hit the floor beneath you. A large but seemingly small gold crown toppling down the steps. Everyone began laughing, holding a cold tone in their faces, cold and distant. Stop laughing. Stop ignoring. I'm not a hallucination. I'm not a ghost. I'm here. You grabbed your head as it was pounding like someone was smashing it with a baseball bat. And it was a baseball. A nightmare indeed. You woke up sweating like you had ran a marathon. A sensation of fear shot up through your feet, through your back, and ended at your head. The one fear you had locked away ever since your father passed was now reopened into the world again, to haunt you forever. You sat up. A cover had been placed over you, but in the rigid state you didn't fit that together until later. Wiping the sweat, you looked around the room you were in. It seemed different, and not because of the things in the room. It wasn't like the white and black one at home. It was more colorful, you decided. The room lit up with little light due to the season. You always appreciated the other seasons, but winter had a certain calmness to it. You found it pleasant and pleasing to trudge through the snow in your boots. Your name may as well be a factor. The dream you had last night, entirely gone from your mind. "Oh, Countess, you're up," a quaint voice sounded in the room. You turned with full-on raged eyes. The glint softened when you realized it was only the maid. Why were you so agitated? Come on, let's go. Come on, let's get you into the shower. I'll pick out a gown for today. Will that be all right?" she asked, nearing you. Your eyes widened in shock, but you nodded nonetheless, and followed her as she directed you. "Would you like me to help you undress?" she asked. You closed your still, shocked eyes and shook your head. That was all the pigtailed woman needed to hear before waltzing out. When the door shut, you grasped the pieces of cloth that covered your heart area. Joy swooned you as worry left. Of course, you had maids back home, but none that treated you like an equal. It wasn't the thing the Phantomhive maid said, but how she said it, with care, consideration, and delicacy, like you'd break if she said it any different. You smiled like a young child who was just presented with a lolly. "Okay, time is of the essence." You huffed and began pulling on the strap of your dress. You undid the ribbon in your hair and let it fall to the floor with no particular place to settle, and stepped into the warm water that had earlier been prepared. The water was warm and covered your body as if you were under a warm sea. Once you had finished, you stepped out of the fancy tub and wrapped a towel around your soaking wet figure. A knock came a few moments later. "Yes?" you questioned. "Oh, I was just checking to see if you were done. If you're not, I can come back a little later." It was the same maid as before. You recognized her voice immediately. "Oh, yes, I'm sorry to trouble you with me." You laughed a little. "Nonsense, it's my job." "Yes, it is." "Is that so?" "All right then, have you got my gown?" You started drying your hair with a towel, letting the drips of water on your body air dry. "Yes, I'll go get it right away, or would you prefer to come to your room?" "I'll go to my room, if that's all right with you," you asked, admiring yourself in the foggy mirror with a smile on your face. "Okay, I'll set everything on your bed, unless you want me to help you get—" "No, that will be all." You laughed off again, now rewrapping the towel around your body. "Thank you, though." "No problem. Now just ring the bell on your table if you need anything." Then she was off. You opened the bathroom door and stumbled your way toward the room. As you were twisting the knob on your door, you heard the one behind you squeak. Until this very moment, you had forgotten that Earl was staying only a few centimeters from you. You had to hide fast. You opened your door and swiftly went in, shutting it with a little more force than needed. "Countess Emberly, was that you?" he called, sounding as if he had been awake since the crack of dawn. "Oh, yeah, sorry about that," you said. "I was just coming back from the bath." "Oh, well, that's good. For a second there I thought you might be hiding from me." This would have been a witty joke if the Earl hadn't sounded so serious while saying it. The assumption was correct, as Ciel did not raise a single eyebrow when you spoke. Like he's one to talk, you thought. "Will I be seeing you in a few minutes for breakfast?" This time he sounded a bit curious, but some type of emotion, you thought, is better than none at all. "Of course, I just need to get dressed first." The Earl coughed. "Excuse my rudeness, would you? I was under the impression you were already dressed." A light, very light blush appeared over his pale skin. Most would not even recognize it as a blush, but more of a symptom for a cold. His stoic expression would have helped with that scenario. "Oh no, that's quite fine, but I really should begin getting ready." "Of course," he responded. "See you in a moment." It went silent after that. You tightened the corset, then placed an almond S nude spaghetti strap, a line mesh dress on with a small cloth that lay on the side as a mini sweater. Of course, this was only for the show. The thing would not keep you warm. You sat in front of the mini desk at your left and let your hair down using a nude headband to top it all off. Some perfume, a little chapstick, and you were ready. You stood from the desk and fumbled with the door, then made your way down the large stairs, meeting Ciel at the bottom. You linked arms and made your way to the dining room. There you saw the maid you had yet to ask the name of, and the man from last night. You took notice that the Earl, once again, did not make much of an effort to look at you. You wanted to huff and say, "Will you just look at me, damn it?" But that would be considered disrespectful, and your mother would surely disapprove. You missed her, your mother, though it wasn't much time you spent with her in your years. You missed her smile and eating with her. Just a month, you thought. 4 weeks, I can do 4 weeks. You sat down and watched another man bring out trays of food. As he did this, a shorter boy came in from another door and began talking with the maid. They were quite loud, but you did your best to ignore it out of politeness. The Earl, however, was not as nice. "Finny, my Rin." "Oh, don't you just adore young love?" The girl swooned, making heart eyes at the man with medium raven black hair. "It's just wonderful, yes it is." She talks a little funny. You giggled at your own thought. "I'm sorry about them." Ciel shook his head, with a hand accompanying it. "It's fine," you sighed, looking at them. "I never get any of this at the brim." "The brim?" he questioned, still not making eye contact with you, seeming to look at your shoulder. "The house, or mansion as you call it." Okay, now it was pissing you off. You waved your hand a little where his eyes had been on for the whole time you'd been seated. He blinked a couple of times, then looked straight past you. You sighed, as if to say, "Fine, it's good enough." "Should we go on a walk then?" he asked after the dishes had been taken back. "Sure." Ciel grimaced a little. "What was it you did in your free time back home?" You looked at him with an unpleasant smile. "Train." "Oh," he said. "I'll go let Sebastian know we plan to go on a walk around the house." At least you had finally learned the names of the servants now. You could address them respectfully. The walk, in your opinion, was only so you'd have something to do with the Earl. And yes, in your eyes, he was still just the Earl. In the 1 week you had spent here, you found 2 out of 3 things you had questioned when you'd first arrived. 1. Ciel has refined himself to ignore this marriage proposal, and that is why he has not looked at you in the eye. And 2. The man following Ciel around is his butler. There are some details you can add to the second answer of your question. Ciel favors Sebastian and keeps him by his side at all times. Rarely is Ciel seen without Sebastian, and if he is, Ciel is either feeling cocky or the man is taking care of something rather important. The answer to these questions, however, not only dissatisfy you, but also open up a window of new questions and possibilities. Firstly, your third question is still unanswered. Why do I get an odd feeling when Sebastian is around? And the new questions. How long does Ciel intend to keep up this act? It is rather rude and annoying if you ask me. I am in the same boat as him, and yet he still decides to absolutely ignore the fact that our futures are practically intertwined together. Oh my gosh, what a relief. Bowl of sarcasm. And anyways, how am I supposed to get close to Ciel when all this time Sebastian is near him? Honest to gods, it's as if he avoids being alone with me. The only time I've been alone with him this entire week was the one time when we were speaking through the door, and I was in a towel. You shook your head just thinking about it. The book you had been reading shut fiercely as Mᴜsɪᴄ, who had been told to accompany you, just as Sebastian did Ciel, walked through with an umbrella. "You wanted to go out today?" she said, shivering a little as the weather had not died down at all since you had arrived. "Yes, thank you. I was just finishing up this chapter anyway." Your eyes shot through hers, and she cowered back a little. Your voice was like rough nails, piercing her very being and pinning her up for everyone to see. She could tell you were upset, but just the length of how much she did not. "Will the Earl be joining us?" you asked as you shoved on your boots. "He will. He said he would meet up with us around late noon because he's extremely busy." "Right." You let the word drip with venom and made a headway for the front door. "Oh, the young master said to give this to you as an apology gift." She smiled, handing you a small raven blue box. "Oh," you hummed, a bit surprised at the gesture of the arrow, to say the least. He didn't seem like the type to give gifts of apology, nor did he seem like the type to actually apologize. The young master really is a kind boy. I definitely haven't served him long enough to say for sure, but from my experience I can tell you he means well. He just can sometimes come off as a little, well, uninterested." You finished. "Yes," she replied with a warm smile, one that drew you in, one that made you want to crawl into a ball in her arms and fall asleep. You replied with a smile of your own, the menace that once overtook you gone. "Mᴜsɪᴄ?" You turned around, facing the burgundy-haired female. "Yes," she answered. "What is it, Countess?" You hesitated before answering. "The Earl." "Oh," she waved her hand. "What is it about the young master that you would like to know?" She proceeded to lean in with a grin only she could muster. "He's a virgin, he is, that I am sure of." Your face flushed again. It apparently did that now, mostly when the Earl's name was mentioned. "Why would I need to know something like that?" you whisper shouted. "Well, I just thought you were just embarrassed to ask." "I apologize, I do," she stated, bowing her head. "It's fine, I forgive you." You waved off. She looked up and smiled knowingly. "Well then, what is it you would like to know?" You looked away and chewed at the inside of your cheek, debating on if you should really ask whether or not Ciel hated you. "It's fine. You can entrust your secrets with me," she reassured you, but however calm her voice was, it did not help in this moment. "I just wonder." There you went again, cut off by your own nervousness. "If you wonder why the young master seems distant toward you, I can't say 100% that this is accurate, but if I were to give him my best guess, I would say he doesn't want to mess things up with you." You looked up, wide eyes, and reminisced. "Mess things up? What does that mean? If anything, I'd be the one messing things up." You covered your mouth as a grin became less hard to see. "If anything, I'd be the one to mess things up," you mumbled mostly to yourself. "Is that so?" Mᴜsɪᴄ asked. You sighed and looked away. "I'm afraid it is." "Well then, this engagement will be harder than we thought, now won't it?" She now sounded like a mother from one of those new stereo episodes. "I hope not too hard," you sighed out, a frown retaking its former place on your lips. "He's pretty cute though, isn't he?" Mᴜsɪᴄ teased as she found she could play with you, unlike her young master. You scoffed even though another blush covered your cheeks. That was visible even in the winter wonderland you were in. "He isn't that bad looking, I guess." "Hey look, you and the young master have something in common." You turned to face her. "And what might that be?" She laughed. "You're both as stubborn as a hog." "Are you calling me a pig?" "No, none of the sort," she snorted. You continued wandering the streets of London a bit longer, exploring most of the antique shops that piqued your interest when you first rode through, until finally, late noon came. They approached you and Mᴜsɪᴄ sitting at a small, round, pavemented table. "Sorry we're late," the young Earl said and took your adorable, lovely, silver silky gloved hand in his, placing a soft and steady kiss onto it. It had been almost a full week, with Monday on its way tomorrow, and you were proud of yourself for getting through a week of living in England. You were over being ready to go back home, but that didn't mean anything if this marriage did not continue with its growing progress. So you would do everything needed to ensure that it did. Earl? Ciel sat beside you and eyed you curiously, though in order to give you his full attention, he made his eyes linger on your head. Yes? You fumbled with the crease of your gloves, so close to the table that you were almost kissing it. What is it, Countess? That word, you thought. I have a name, you know. Please, you paused, looking up to meet his eyes. Wyan. Is that it? Please accept my apologies, Wyan. That easily? You hated that. That he was only complying with you because he needed this marriage to work out just as well as you did. Can we speak privately? You asked, side-eyeing the servants standing nearby, with only persistence in them. He shifted in his seat as if debating whether or not to do so. Sebastian, Mayrin, leave us. Go on a walk. Master, are you sure? Yes, I am. Now leave us. He was much more aggressive with Sebastian than any other servant as well. That much was very clear, which is why it was one of the first answers you got. You would have to add that to your list of questions. Why? Once the servants were out of sight and it seemed you two were alone, Ciel spoke. Emberly, Phantom, you calmly turned back to the Earl and asked, Mind if I call you Ciel? I rather fancy the name. Yes, names are fascinating, aren't they? He agreed as if he was right next to you, but you felt the slight distance he kept between you two, and it was getting on your nerves the more he stubbornly persisted with it. Then, Ciel, you started. What is your problem? Ciel blinked his eyes a couple of times. Could you perhaps elaborate on what exactly you mean? He asked, now with a little coldness in his tone. Oh no, he was not going to disrespect you like that. He was going to be put in his place, is what, and the person to do it would be you. You actually thought the idea of him trying to disrespect you was funny. I said, you inhaled, your problem. You obviously have one with me. I want to sort it out. So, tell me, Ciel, what is the root of it? I have no problem. He responded with the same boldness as you, though this time he not so lightly slammed his free hand on the table in between you two. His other was too preoccupied clutching his cane, the one he carried around every time he went out. I hope you do not think me blind, Ciel, you said with a glare on your face. Now why you were bringing this up was because you did not want to live like this forever, in the shadow of your supposed lover. You could have maybe lightened up the mood by saying something a little nicer, or maybe smiling and saying you were there for him. But he decided he wanted to challenge you, and you decided you were going to accept. I don't believe I ever said you were, Wyan. He gripped the napkin beneath his palm and narrowed his eyes with the same challenging stare you had on. It's an expression, you replied coolly, and with no prepared response to that, Ciel could only grit his teeth. You smirked because that meant you had won your first agitated game with the notorious Ciel Phantomhive. Emberly 1, Phantomhive 0. Are you hungry? Mayrin and I were just about to order a small snack before Sebastian and yourself happened upon us. You grinned, looking to the menu. Ciel watched your figure with not just curiosity now, but interest as well. There may have even been a bit of respect, but Ciel would never acknowledge it. You're just... He hit his lower lip, but you felt more confident with him and didn't fumble with your glove this time, nor did you plan to again. I know, you answered before he could finish, knowing it might take a while to find a word that described your undefinable behavior. Ciel opened his mouth to counterattack and begin another argument, but was shut down by the return of Mei-rin and said, unsettling scary butler, "This conversation is not over." He leaned in and whispered. He smiled. "Well, I would hope not." Ciel scoffed, then turned to Sebastian and Mei-rin. "We're going to order a small dessert." "Oh, my dear Ciel, the game is just beginning." Yum. You patted your belly as you patted your belly as you and your group walked away from the cafe area. When we get home, would you like me to prepare you a bath? Mei-rin leaned forward to look you in the eyes as you continued walking. "Yes, please." To avoid further embarrassment of maybe bumping into Ciel, the next time you got Mei-rin to clear the coast before you walked out again. It was something you had completely forgot about until now. Your face flushed a little, but you were able to contain it by clearing your throat. "After, I would prefer you to come to my study." Ciel's voice echoed in the cold wind as you entered your carriages. "Oh?" you questioned, a small smile playing on your lips, as Ciel stepped into the same carriage you used to get here. Ciel was not the only one who found interest in their new neighbor. You had taken a keen attentiveness to him, the same he did you. "Do not think anything of this. I just thought it right. Sebastian and Mei-rin will take the other." "Fine by me." You leaned back and pulled the curtains, concealing a window. Staring out at London Street, you wondered what living here would be like. Already 1 week and you were amazed by so many things. You may never stop being amazed by them. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Ciel inquired, following your gaze out into the night. Soon they drifted to the sky, and one particular star seemed as interesting as an unsolved true crime case. You were ready to answer, but he then added, "If it weren't for the people." Ciel, you knocked on the Earl's study door. A few seconds later, the door creaked open, revealing a Ciel fully dressed. You would have thought he would be in his nightwear, though you guessed you should have expected as much, since the Earl in your eyes seemed to never sleep. A suit he was not wearing a couple of hours ago adorned his top half, and a matching pair of plain black trousers accompanied his bottom. Your nightdress was a simple silk ice blue. Your family name was embroidered with your family's main color, raven blue. It was always very appealing to you, which was something you always thanked your ancestors for, their choice in color. "Do come in." He opened the door wider. You took the gesture and followed your own instincts, your competitive ones. "You wanted to speak?" you stated as he shut the door, and you took in his study. You made your way over to the big window, on the side of his desk chair, and caressed it. It must be truly beautiful in the morning. You took in a deep breath when you felt the presence of the Earl directly behind you. "That must be the reason you got up so early." Ciel chuckled. "Would it surprise you if I said I'm just an early bird?" You turned your head slightly to face him. "It would." "Of course. And you, a night owl, I presume?" "You do not presume wrong. However, I think you a night owl myself. It seems to me like you prefer to do business when the sun is down. Maybe we all like in more ways than one. Maybe we are." He turned on his heels and began walking away. "Rather that I have things. I should not worry you with it tonight, though. You'll need your sleep for tomorrow." "For what, may I ask?" You followed, might I say, just to take the information I have, and what of it after? "That is what the rest of the nights are for." "Ah, I see." You smiled and curtsied. "See you in the morning, my lord." "My same regards." He bowed, then opened the study door once again. You walked out and waved. Ciel watched your figure as you disappeared around the corner and down the hall. Well, currently, both your rooms stood separate. He knew. that would all change once you were married. His expression said just that. You wondered what he meant by that. If it weren't for the people, did that mean you? Or was he specifically speaking about a certain person or group? Did you want to know? The evening before was nice. You thought you were finally gaining common ground with Ciel. You thought he was finally starting to accept you. You thought back to the night before again. You would have loved living here. If not, you would have to learn because it was made absolutely clear not wasn't a choice. But did you want it to be? Mayrin found your room empty and cleaned. She was confused until she read the letter left on your nightstand. Dear Mayrin, please let the Earl know I will be gone for most of today. I should be back around dinner time. I have some business I need to take care of in town. Please do not worry, I can take care of myself. I'm just as capable. Thank you. Sincerely, Y.E. You made your way into town early today. You had unofficial business here, and it would be unprofessional of you to leave during the day, as this was supposed to be a sort of vacation for you. Your information gathering, however, was more important. It was also dangerous. If the Earl found out what you were doing, he may and has the right to call off the engagement. Would he really do that? This would not be a pleasant thing to happen to you. What you were doing, well, it was simple yet complicated all the time, all the same. You wanted information was all, on the person you were currently engaged to. I have a right, you thought, and it was that thought alone that kept you from turning back, running with your tail between your legs, as smooth as a snake right back into the manor. A week had passed, and so far you had been accepting your fate. That, however, did not mean you would go down so easily. You were pretty stubborn, but to be fair, so was another certain teenager. Ciel was not hurt nor angry that you had left. He in fact found it calming, more of a relief now that he thought about it. He really couldn't stand it. What was supposed to be a relationship with no feelings, just documents, was turning into something he no longer had control over. It was boiling down on him, and he didn't know how he could cool it down, fix whatever the problem was. Well, I'm not a cook, he thought. Due to two reasons. He had no idea what exactly that problem was, and he simply didn't want to. He was stuck between his brain and his emotions. His heart beat at neither pace. It was in the middle. He knew what he wanted to do, but he also knew what he needed to do. And through all his stress, Sebastian has been right by his side this entire time. His black butler tried to console his young master the only way he possibly could, with facts. Young master, if I may. He looked towards Ciel for approval of continuing. Ciel nodded, and so he did. Does anything really have to change if you have genuine feelings for the young countess? Ciel thought for a moment. What good would I be to her if you were just going to eat my soul in the end? Not that I'm complaining, but if you look at it from my point of view, things are very difficult. Sebastian smirked. I understand now what you mean. Ciel glared at his butler. Besides, it's not romantic, just feelings of equality. I respect her to a certain point. But was that really the response he meant to give? Ciel shook his head. There's no option worth opening. I can't and I won't. So that's your decision then? Cut her off for good. She might cheat on you if you continue to act like, well then let her cheat. I can't possibly. Ciel trailed off. It was not. But you want to? Sebastian inquired, still wearing that growing smirk. Ciel dragged his hand across his face. Of course. The Countess is just that type of person. Oh, well, you'll surely leave her with something. Ciel looked up, face flushed. That is inappropriate and absolutely indecent, he shouted. I was just reminding you. Sebastian put his hands up. Right, I'm sure. Ciel calmed himself down to glare at Sebastian again. even though the redness still fully showed. Right then. It's around lunch. We should head down, if you feel like it, that is. No, I'll eat in my office. I only started because of YN. This is the first I've heard you calling the young countess by her first name. Sebastian looked behind his shoulder, without using her status. Watch your tongue. Ciel shouted out of embarrassment. Anger was the last thing on his mind. It was almost lunch, and you had just finished speaking with a local detective. His name wasn't important to you. What was important to you was the information he had on the Phantomhives. And you're sure? It's all true. All documented in a court of ma'am, I assure you, he said and handed you a piece of paper. This is to tie loose ends? You asked. Yes, we can't give this information out to just anyone, so good thing I'm not just anyone. The man's sweat dropped at your scary face. Right you are. You then took the pen that was passed neatly to the side of the paper and signed on the line that read, signature, at the bottom. Thank you, and this never happened. What never happened? That made you smile. You walked out and shut the door behind you. All the information you had gathered, you were now going over it. And boy, did you have a storm to tackle. You read every single file the detective has on the Phantomhives, starting from the beginning to end. Everything seems to be adding up to what you were told, besides that butler of his, but regardless, everything seems to check out. So why? Why do you feel uneasy about the information you just read? Why does something feel so off? It feels so wrong, like there's something that detective missed. But what is it? You ask. Just what in Her Majesty's name could I be missing? You sipped from the mug that had your hot chocolate in it. Oh, hot chocolate, how perfect for the weather, you thought. But it seems the hot chocolate is not enough to clean your brain of the foggy questions that clouds it. What am I missing? Your brain zooms through every possibility, every scenario that could possibly lead you to what you think will answer all your questions about Ciel Phantomhive. My lady. A deep voice calls from behind. Shivers go up your spine. You have not lived in the manor for long, but even so, you automatically got accustomed to that tone, to the point where you can pick it out from anywhere in the ballroom. Sebastian. You turn your head while simultaneously hiding the files under the table. Fancy seeing you here, did the Earl send you? You quirk an eyebrow and go for your mug again. Sebastian looks amused at your question. That's what his smile says anyway. Why no, I don't believe he has the idea I've even left. Won't he be mad? You thought back to that one night where you heard Ciel silently curse at Sebastian for something simple, though it seemed that your presence prevented an outburst. Not if he doesn't find out. He moves his finger to his lips. I trust you won't tell. He states, yes, he just assumes you'll stay quiet about this. As much as you want him to be so, he is not wrong. I do not understand. Will he not realize, since you follow him around almost everywhere? You practically bathe together. You sound skeptical in your tone, as if you still do not believe the idea of the Earl not sending Sebastian out to look for you. I'm sure. I don't know. Sebastian walks closer to your table, but makes no effort to sit down. You know, you most likely will get nowhere if you continue playing charades with Sebastian. Instead, you make the decision to be forward with him. Sebastian, did you need something from me? Yes, I did. How did you figure that out? You internally roll your eyes. What else would you want with me? Intuition. You kept your answer short. There is something he wants, and it is from you. This is all you need to know. However, you do not feel comfortable with it at all, because there is just something about Sebastian. You presume you might never be able to fully understand how Sebastian does what he does, and well enough, you do not ever want to. The knowledge of his mere presence in the same room of you gives off a warning. a warning to run the other way. Sebastian is bad news in your eyes. Maybe he's a sign, you question. A sign that I maybe should not go through with this. Stop looking. He smacks his hand on the table in front of you, startling you a bit. Huh? You look up finally, meeting his eyes. Stop looking. You won't find anything worthwhile. You give a defeated sigh and lift the papers on the table. He smirks and gives a brief answer before disappearing. Intuition. You gape at this, but before you are able to correspond, he is already gone. Touché, you whisper, pulling the mug to your mouth again. My move. Sebastian, Ciel yells. I'm so sorry, master. He bowed. I had an errand to run. Please accept my apology. Ciel scoffed. Where did you go? The town. Stop being vague. Why did you... You know what? I don't care. I need you to help me figure out what I'm going to tell Lady Wyan. The Duchess Blanche wants to meet with us. He sighed and fell back into his chair at the desk. This is a problem. I can see it troubles you very much. Of course it does. She wants to meet us Friday at noon, as a couple. He shakes his head. We aren't even on the same page. How are we going to get through this together in 4 days? It is as if Sebastian is not there at all, because the Earl seems to be asking himself for permission. Permission of what is not yet of his knowledge. If I may, Sebastian asks, you and the Countess have had a week to get to know each other. Shouldn't this be easy for you two? Ciel scoffs. For about the 3rd time since Sebastian has reappeared. We spent the entire week ignoring each other. We were just watching, examining how the other one plays. How in Her Majesty's name are we going to create a play when we are still going up against each other for the Queen's position? Please, master, your metaphors are very confusing. Sebastian shakes his head, and yet again, I'm afraid I do not understand. In all reality, Sebastian just loves to see Ciel stressed. It is something he, and only he, can get away with at times. He enjoys the fact very much, maybe a little too much at times. Ciel paces back and forth between his desk and chair. This is a real problem. I'll have to devise strategies. I can't do this alone. Well, maybe I can. I'll come up with a plan and just inform Wyan on how to act. Say what when the time comes. And no, what am I saying? She's a countess. She's been trained to handle this kind of pressure. She can handle herself, I'm sure. He stopped walking and smirked at his own comment. Can I really count on someone other than myself, though? This he mumbles, for only himself to hear, and in any other circumstance it might have worked. However, this is Sebastian we are speaking of. Okay, maybe she will come in useful for planning strategies. He places his hand under his chin and looks up. Then it's settled. I'll wait for Wyan to get home and we can plan. Ciel catches himself. Did I just call this her home? He shakes his head of the thought. There is absolutely no way I could be accepting this. This is just a documented relationship, just for imaginary purposes, nothing real. The word stings him a little. Is this real to you? Could it be real to him? Is it something you want to be real? Or is it as simple as documents, files? Sebastian. Ciel calls out, looking down from the ceiling. Tell Bob to begin preparing dinner. The Countess should be home shortly. Of course, master. He crosses his arms, placing his hand over his heart, and bows. Then he walks out, leaving Ciel to himself. Whether she likes it or not, this is her home now. He smiles, pleased with the dominance of the situation he has been put in. Intuition, Ciel thought as he walked through the front doors. He smiles as he continues his walk down the large staircase. My lady, you are home and just in time. He's playing. Of course, you answer, just as nice as he. His game face then appears, lowering his head to the floor, but keeping his eyes on you. He states, It seems our game is just beginning. You stick up your chin as a way of showing your confidence and reply, letting Mayrin take your coat. Don't be so arrogant, Ciel. It is not a good look for you. You smirk while his forms into a glare. Do you honestly think you can get under his skin that easily? Well, then you are completely correct. He changes the subject to something more important. Right then. We have a meeting with the Duchess Fiancé Friday. I expect you understand what that means. That the Duchess is French? Ciel rolls his eyes already over your sarcasm, making you sigh. You let your face drop to a small frown. Jokes. I suppose I do. Good. I am not a dog, Ciel. You think, snorting at his comment. Wide vocabulary you got there. Play nice, YN. It'll be good practice. Are you mad? We were just about ready to get to the interesting bit. Oh well, we have the rest of our life, yes? Better make the most of our youth before we wed. You roll your own eyes at that thought alone. How lovely you look, Lady YN. Mayron compliments. Thank you, you chirp. By the way, I have been meaning to talk to you about something. Yes? What is it you have on your mind? She smiles, finishing the last touches on your hair. I meant to ask you about it before, but never got the time right. I thought about hiring a few maids, to help with the laundry and things like that. Oh, are you positive? You wave your hands. Of course, I do not mean to touch the Earl's money, not a single dime. I plan to use my own. Mayron giggles a little. That's not what I mean. No, it's certainly not. You draw your eyebrows together, smoothing over your flowing green gown, and turn to face Mayron fully. Then what? She places a hand over her mouth. All I mean to say is, my lady, I'm here. You take in this new information and think of some loopholes to where you are able to get your way without being disrespectful. Sometimes you think you are quite the genius, and that is simply because you always have eyes on you, not just the public, but the Emerys as well. It is much too easy for you to get away with just about everything due to that fact alone. With how strict your home life is and such. However, other times, such as this one, you think yourself blind or simply dense. Like, you cannot read a room as well as you can if you're being cautious or aware, which is usually always. To put it short, you find yourself a genius at playing mind games for your own sake, but when it comes to physical attributes and physical contact conversations, you are as dim-witted as a pig knowing about its future when it is ready for slaughter. Right, well, I just thought you should have one roll instead of 1,000,001. You clasp your hands together and begin your walkout. Do think about it. I will dread knowing you have so much work on your hands that you tire yourself to death. I appreciate the thought, I do. Certainly I'll think about it. You smile. Gracious that Mayron, whom you think so highly of, would take your advice and maybe even act on it. You truly feel that she bears too much a burden. Besides, a couple of maids roaming around will make the mansion a bit less quiet. I could even bring Elsie here. I do miss her company just a bit. You whisper to yourself, making your way out to the carriage with no regard to wait for Mayron or Ciel. Elsie was a regular housemaid who always treated you as a person and not the heir of some long-time respected bloodline. You were always grateful for her, even if her actions made very little difference. Elsie was an older woman who knew your father very well before he came down with the illness. You often wondered if she would ever bear children of her own. You wonder that still. I would have walked you out. I got claustrophobic. In the manor. Ciel questions, looking back to make sure you both were speaking of the same house. Ciel and yourself had gone over a couple of strategies in the days leading up to Friday, today, that you may possibly use in your plan. What is it? Ciel questions, shifting uncomfortably under your gaze. What? You drop out of your trance. Nothing. Sure. He walks forward and meets Sebastian at the door of the carriage. In shock, you do the same. How did Sebastian get over there that fast? There's no way a butler, even the best, could... Your thought process quickly jolts to a stop. You take a second look at Sebastian. He places his hand right over his heart and bows at you, a smirk present on his face as he shuts the door behind you. Ciel, you call? The Earl adjusts his head from planted in his hand, looking out the window, to plant his hand looking over at you. However, he tilts it a little, creating the illusion that there are two of you. He squints his eyes just a bit in order to fix this problem. Which to you looks more as if he narrowed them, making him look way too hot in your opinion? Not bad, Phantomhive, you thought, taking in his full appearance for the first time today. Stop it, YN, you have more important things to focus on. You mentally smack yourself. Yes, what is it? He answers. Does he always look like this? Oh, who gives the bloody hell? I have a question. He sits up straight and motions with his hand for you to continue, all the while saying, Go on then. You hesitate. It's about your butler, Sebastian. He asks skeptically. Yes, you look down. Is that okay? Why are you being so weird about this? You're acting absolutely nothing like yourself. That much is obvious. Depends. He states, his voice coming off rather hard and cold, unlike the playful tone he uses when he's competitively playing with you. Your body shudders in fear, just like it did when Sebastian spoke to you the other day. What is this aura? I've never felt so... Why did he get so... serious? What in the Queen's name is he playing here? Never mind, it must have been a mistake. You wave off nonchalantly, closing your eyes in annoyance. Is that correct? He looks down, but leaves his firm gaze lingering on you, like a lion stalking prey. His remaining stare only feeds into your fear. No, he's not going to scare you. You say to yourself, we are equals, and I will make sure he knows that. You narrow your eyes. Where did you find Sebastian? Without a moment of hesitation, as though he has been waiting for this, for your boost of arrogant confidence, Ciel answers without his will to not. I thought you deemed it unimportant. That is what you just said, no? You cut him off in the end sentence and reply back, I changed my mind. Ciel sighs and clutches his eye patch. I found him in Paris. His advocate said he'd worked well, and I trusted him. Thus, here we are now. He waves his hand with his last words. That's a lie. You state loudly. I beg your pardon. Ciel scoffs, sitting up in his seat, almost hunching over to try and scare you into backing down. It did not work. I heard from the Queen that you hate to travel. Why in her name would you leave to Paris? He looks away. It was a long time ago, sounding uncomfortable, like he was in fact the one backing down. Was it now? You narrow your eyes to slits with a smirk. And just how long ago, may I ask? You may not, he says, then realizes his words. You sit back, playing with the tassel on your hat. A few years back. 4 years? Because, as I've said, in the past 4 years, I know you have not left London Harbour. You now open your eyes and look at Ciel with a straight face, a frown most evident on it. Why is that, Ciel? Ciel grunts. Just what are you playing at? Have you not noticed by now? You question him, an innocent yet superior frown scattering your lips. I am playing your game, just better. Ciel opened his mouth, just the tiniest, while his black butler took it upon the most tiniest of smirks. I believe our young master has just made his match. I'm sorry, what was that, Mr. Sebastian? Tonica looks over to his companion. The latter turns and smiles at the old man, then brings the carriage to a stop. I do believe we have arrived. You state nonchalantly, allowing Ciel to send you his small glare, choosing to ignore it. Feeling it would not sit right with the Duchess of Blanchet having the two most respectable families coming together in wedlock and the heads of each family not being able to get along, even if it is for the sake of both families' futures. A dreadful responsibility indeed. You sigh. Sebastian helps you out of the carriage, then the young Earl. I must say, this tea set is lovely. Is it perhaps fine china? The tea set was pearl white, with delicate lilies dancing over them, a solid gold line circling just the very bottom and the curves of the cup. The Duchess smiles. No, j'ai pas éclairé tes amis families. Et porcelain for moi set, and oui, it is lovely. Her accent you love, her banter not as much. The Duchess has a bit of a dry wit, by which I mean of none. You hate not being able to joke like in the manner with Ciel. Well, it is more of witty back and forth banter, where you two see who can get under the other's skin first. It is full of cunning and dry humorous comments that may or may not be as true as you put them. However, that is specifically why you love it. This again, not your cup of tea. Ha, get my pun? Okay, I'll stop. Ciel nudges your foot under the table. Now, whether it was on purpose or not, you nudge him back, earning a small smile from Ciel as he spoke to the Duchess, who you are slowly learning is not at all what you thought she'd be like. That face, though, chin pointed up, eyes barely narrow, and a single genuine smile on full blast, is leading you to believe that the small kick Ciel gave you had been on purpose. A playful kick. He is bored too. Now you know. What do I even call her? Duchess? Antoinette? Your Grace? Yes, that's it. I remember from my studies. You feel quite glad about your knowledge on the rankings of high society. Your Grace, if I may, you ask, pointing to her bracelet. Oh, she grasps her bracelet quite tightly. It was a gift. Ciel and yourself both nod, waiting for her to continue. For me, late mother, before she passed. You see the way the Duchess grimaces at the mention of her mother, and guilt instantly floods you. Some pity as well. Will you have a bond like that when your mother, after marriage? Will she have to be on her deathbed in order for you to receive such a memorable moment? These are the thoughts you promised to steer clear of, and yet here you are, thinking just that. I'm sorry, I've brought you, you gasp, glancing at Ciel, but quickly covering up your mistake with a cough. Great sadness. You complete. In the middle of your sentence, you felt his leg hit yours, and you gasped, not expecting the action. Ciel bats his eyelashes and gives you an innocent smile as the Duchess explains for you to pay her no mind, and that the passing of her mother had been a couple of years ago. That bracelet is the last thing she received from her mother alive. You only have a bare minimum to glance at Ciel before facing back toward the Duchess, meaning you have to keep your smile in your mind. It is hard, but you succeed in doing so. Not too long after you stopped speaking did you kick Ciel back, giving him the most innocent smile you were able to muster. On this subject, though, this catches your attention. Ciel, may I ask why you wear that silly eye patch? Your eyes shoot to Ciel's as he clasps the black-stringed eye patch with his hand, the one unoccupied by his cane. You have wondered about the thing as well. When the young Earl has such beautiful eyes, why in the Queen's name does he choose to cover one up? You stay quiet, though, despite your want for answers. Hopefully, in less than 3 weeks, you will become a Phantomhive yourself and leave your maiden name. Then, you thought, shall I have my answers? For now, though, you will keep these thoughts to yourself. Ah, he knew better than to look at Sebastian before I could finish. Sebastian cut in. The young master sustained an injury during the house fire a few years back. He has covered it since and grimaces at the mere thoughts of it, let alone speaking of it. Really? Is that it then? You touch your lightly parched thigh. One of the reasons you hate being touched was because of this scar. But that's not it. You look back up. Is it, Ciel? That was interesting, you state once seated back in the carriage. It was a complete drag, is what I think you mean to say. Well, it was not entirely tedious. You thought back to the small kicks you and Ciel shared. I've no such idea of what you mean, then. He states in all seriousness, then turns to you with a smile. Of course, unless you meant you submitting. You know Now that I do think about it, it was quite a bore, was it not? Ciel grins as you do. What of the ball then? What of it? People will be there, important ones. Wyan. Ciel grasps his heart. Are you implying what I think you're implying? And this is talk of another evening, you sighed, resting a calm smile on your lips. Ciel sighs, resting his own calm smile on his face. As you two stare out the window of the opposite side, you both think the same thing. I will not lose. I won't lose. I look fantastic, you say, watching yourself twirl in the white-framed mirror. I should be going soon. The ball is beginning, so I shan't be late. You tell yourself, grabbing the raven blue mask from the dresser, sitting just beneath the mirror. Your hair pulled back into a braided bun. You told Mayron you prefer to leave your hair without accessories for this night due to you wearing a mask, so she left your hair plain. You appreciated her cooperation. No back talk, saying how pretty it would be. Following through with your plan, you step into the hallway that combined yours and Ciel's rooms, and just as you exit your room, you look up at the perfect moment, meeting Ciel's eyes. He has just left his room, same as you, making it a bit awkward. His eyes leave yours as soon as he notices the mask in your hand. What are you supposed to be? You ask the boy, amusement laced in your tone. A pirate? What do you mean? It's not a costume ball. He scoffs. You roll your eyes. Oh, really? Maybe you should stay home then, because your mask is already attached. What are you on about? He narrows his eyes. You point to your left eye. Your eye patch, my lord. What of it? Funny, I remember you saying those exact words a few days before. You look to the ceiling while expressing your thoughts. You have quite the memory then, because I did not remember that at all. You inhale a mass of air and sigh out. That is not what I meant. I was lying about the eye patch. Yes, I could figure that much out for myself. So what are you really speaking of? You smile. You point to your lips. Ciel does not immediately react. Instead, he looks down slowly and states softly, It protects me. He eyes the floor, and as if he realizes what the meaning behind his words are, he looks up and adds, Of course, I was joking, deciding to play your dumb game for once. Sticking up his nose. Well, you walk up to him, lifting your hand while looking directly into his eyes, even though he refuses to meet your gaze. You play it well, then you walk away. Ciel is left standing in the hallway. His stunned face does not compare to the thought ringing in his head. What gave me away? You lower yourself into the carriage with the help of Sebastian. Something makes you wary of his warning. With that, the memory comes back. Stop looking. Were the words he spoke so effortlessly. Does he care so much for the Earl that he will go to great lengths to protect the very secret that is keeping you on your toes? That is keeping every one of the lords and ladies that live on his land, the press, on their toes? Maybe I should just let it go. What do I have to gain from finding out his secret? We will still wed, still have children, still bring our families together. There is no point in beating myself up about this. But that is exactly it. You need this secret. You need it to be something you want to find out. Because if, when you give up the truth, will come barreling down upon you, and the walls you built your kingdom behind will come undone. You know this, and yet choose to ignore it because you're scared. It is only natural. Anyone would be scared if they knew their entire upbringing was of personal benefit, that No one truly cares of what becomes of them unless it adds to what that person gets. You are in denial. You do not want to believe this, so you shed it out. You've been doing so ever since your father's death. Nothing has changed. Woyan, you look up from where this softly spoken voice is coming from. He sounds so regretful. You wipe at the tear that rolls down your cheek, only to be hit with the realization that you're wearing a mask. He cannot see me. You think, we will be on our way now. Of course, you nod. What is the matter? Is everything all right? Why would it not be? You smile as the mask only hides your eyes and your upper cheek. Because you're... Ciel trails off, knowing that if he calls you out on your fake smile, it may only make things worse. Not that he cares. You called his out, why should he not yours? Because he knows what it feels like. Right then, he sticks his hand out the carriage door and motions with his hand to start moving. The door is shut then by Sebastian, and not much later, the basket you sit in begins to move. Ciel told Sebastian he did not need to help you out of the carriage tonight, so Sebastian waited until Ciel opened the door to let himself out, along with you. Sebastian tells Tanaka they can drive the carriage around back. You are surprised by Ciel's independence, but more surprised by the fact that he is able to withstand your weight and his without dropping his cane or losing his balance. What is it you expect me to do? You ask, staring at Ciel's extended arm. He sighs and rolls the only eye visible. Take it. You are to be on my arm tonight. A blush creeps up your cheeks. What? Just take it, he demands with annoyance. But if we are to wed, then sometime sooner rather than later, you will have to be on my arm, especially in public. He nods towards the Duchess's manor. Realization takes over your face. Right. You walk over and hesitate, but take his arm in yours. You two look lovely. Sebastian bows. Where did Tanaka go? You ask. Oh, I'm sure he's around here somewhere. Sebastian reassures. But right now, we need to worry about you two. You nod, still looking around for Tanaka. The kind old man did something for you a while back, and now you are kind of attached. Alright, then, shall we? Ciel questions, looking towards you. You meet his gaze, and for a moment, the tension around you two seems to fog up your minds. It's almost 9 o'clock, my lord, Sebastian says, dragging you both out of the trance that was created by the opposite person. Of course, you say, answering Ciel's previous question. As you walk through the front doors of the Duchess's manor, people, nobles, and other important others watch the lingering hold Ciel has on you. They begin to whisper to one another while keeping their eyes all over you. You feel like you are in a cage, a box of sorts. A flash goes off and a couple of more. You feel as though you are being suffocated by the box's lid, that you may never find your way out. But then you hear his voice. Just smile, he says. You glance at him with confused and fearful eyes. His grip tightens on your arm, pulling you a bit closer. Just smile and wave. Is he trying to comfort you? Does he know what's going through your brain right at this moment? Is that why he pulled you closer? To hide your coward self? These people are such a bore, he comments, taking you off to the side. You take a deep breath as he lets your arm go. Are you parched? You nod, unable to control your words. Never pegged you for the type to have claustrophobia, Ciel says, handing you a glass of water. We're all afraid of something, right? You take a sip of the water, allowing Ciel to speak. Please, I'm afraid of nothing, he says. Oh, come on, you roll your eyes. Stop acting if you're ahead of your time. Everyone is afraid of something. Well, then I guess I'm just different. He built... Okay, Ciel. In a span of 2 minutes, Ciel manages to calm you down without you even noticing. He truly is your remedy, not that, you're too busy begging him to dance. He smiles, just the slightest at you tugging on his sleeve. Please, you beg. Pretty please. Ciel sighs and shakes his head. I don't dance. Oh, you question with a raised eyebrow. Ciel frowns, unaware of what you mean. Is that your fear, dancing? Ciel scoffs at your bad answer. No, he simply states, then why don't you dance? Because I never have and I never will. Drop it. Please, you ask again. For me? No. He states flatly, fine then, I'll just have Sebastian dance with me. That's fine, I'll be waiting over here. He rolls his eyes as you stick your tongue out at him like a child. You say to Sebastian as he guides your feet. Ciel talks very highly of you. Sebastian smirks. At first I thought it cute that the infamous and stoic Earl Phantomhive thinks so highly of someone, let alone his butler. Sebastian nods along with your words. However, I think I have come across a conclusion as to why he does, in fact, think so highly of you. Sebastian raises an eyebrow. And what might that be, my lady? You are going to respond, but someone cut in your dance. Hello, I was wondering if I may dance with the young countess. The boy looks to Sebastian, then you. Yes, of course, Sebastian says, stepping away. Maybe next time. He breathes. You know there is not going to be a next time. You know you don't even have an idea of why Ciel thinks too highly of Sebastian. The only purpose you had for saying so was to get Sebastian's reaction. Not that it did you much good. The boy, a bit taller than you, took your hand in his. I don't believe we've ever met. I wonder why that is. You begin to feel it again as the boy grips your waist in the dance. Remembering Ciel's words, help with this. Smile, just smile and wave. Well, I suppose it is because I live in Scotland. Oh? You don't seem the type to live there, and your accent does not give off the impression that you live in London, but am I bringing it up? Honestly, what am I even supposed to say to that? Ciel squeezes the glass in his hand to the point of it almost crushing. Please do not do that, my lord. You will cut yourself. You think I give a damn about bleeding? He growls. Young master, what is the problem? Sebastian asks, knowing full well what the problem is and that he is the cause of it. My Ciel laughs dryly before changing his face to a stone brick wall. I've no problem, and no idea what ever gave you the idea. Are you sure? Sebastian eggs him on. Of course I'm not sure. He yells. A few people look around at him, but most did not hear the outburst over the music and conversations going about. Ciel smiles and waves. The people smile and wave back. Yes, that trick really does work. Then he marches up to Sebastian, reaching up to grab the butler's tie. Why did you leave her alone? I did not, though. He cut in. Well, he should have known that she's my bloody fiancé. Actually, Sebastian put up his right index finger, covered in white silk glove, and, as if telling Ciel off, stated, She is not. You have not proposed yet, and neither has she. Ciel gasps at this truth. As much as he hates to admit it, Sebastian is 100% correct. He had forgotten that he needs to propose in order to actually be engaged. Ciel thinks about the silver ring sitting under his pillow. Then she should become my fiancée tonight. He narrows his eyes at Sebastian. Get them. Certainly, my lord. He bows, then speeds off. The honorary disrespect. Ciel clicks his tongue. Why in? You look at him, walking towards you and the mystery boy who you have been conversating with for the past 8 minutes. I have something I need to ask you. You look at your dance partner, apologize, then walk off with Ciel. Yes, what is it?
Not now. You should go to the toilet first.
The toilet. Ciel nods his head. Right, okay then. You walk away, confused to the bone. The toilet? What in the world could I need to go to the bathroom for? You ask no one, your voice echoing through the bathroom as you go to wash your hands. You step in front of the large glass mirror and take a good look at yourself. You push your face close to the mirror, almost as if you were trying to practice kissing methods with it. But no, you are inspecting your face. Maybe this was his way of telling me I have something on my face politely? You step back from the mirror. Nope, nothing seems to be amiss. You coat your lip gloss over your lips one time before stepping back out into the hall. You walk down it and meet Ciel at the corner where the doors seem to be halfway open. What are you doing out here? You ask with a smile.
Waiting for you.
He replies smoothly. So, that was it, you think? He just wanted to get me away from the weird stalker? Aw, I'm rather pleased with that. You grin to yourself, then open your eyes and let Ciel take your hand. I have something to ask of you, he says coolly. Yes, you answer. Sebastian had brought the rings down while you were in the bathroom. Now he was carrying out another command of Ciel's.
Sebastian should have already talked with the pianist.
Ciel thinks
it'll be any minute now.
And just as he predicts, the music stops playing along with it. The dancers stop dancing, and everyone turns to look at one another as if the answer to their question could be on the face of someone in the room. You look around, confused yourself, when Ciel takes your hand in his and smiles at you. You watch as one of his eyes curls up like eyes do when their owner smiles. It doesn't seem practiced though. No, this is Ciel's real smile. He's showing it. Then, just like that, it disappears. You gulp. Okay, what is so important? Oh gosh, you think, is he about to ask you that die-hard question? The one that will set both of your fates in motion. What will you say? What can you say other than yes? Nothing. And as you imagined, Ciel gets down on one knee, his head bowed, and his right arm across his heart. It would bless my heart dearly. Oh no, he's starting. What do I do? You question yourself, but that doesn't stop Ciel from speaking. If you would do me the honor. Okay, I'm going to crawl in a corner and evaporate. Ciao. Since the music had stopped playing, everyone turned their heads to the only thing they did hear, Ciel's voice. Immediately after seeing what was going on, they rushed over and circled you both. The photographer was somehow in the circle and began to take photos non-stop. The scene is quite beautiful. Anyone who is able to see can tell you that. So it is a no-brainer a photographer would want to capture this lovely moment. Even now, as Ciel bows before you on one knee, the photographer is taking pictures and whispering little things to his writer. Of giving me your hand in marriage. 2 more lines. You bite your lip in anticipation. The crowd seems to be just as astonished as you are. However, unlike you, they are able to show it as much as they want. You are to look pleased. You are to look happy, even if it is fake. The only problem is that the blush creeping up on your cheeks, that as much as you'd hate to admit it, that is not fake. All the words you've said to Ciel tonight, they have all been genuine. And become my wife. The next word you will speak shall be no different. You know that with all your heart. Why, Emily, will you marry me? Frankly, you thought your whole world would stop as soon as you heard those words. You thought that once those words were spoken, your life would be over, and set and planned out, so much so that you wouldn't have a life to live. However, now that it is actually happening to you, you can't help but feel overjoyed. All you feel is a rush of happiness, and it has all been caused by Ciel. Ciel alone now holds the burden of dealing with you. Not to his surprise, though. He does not care. Yes,
You nod your head, wanting to squeal so hard your head pops off. You save that for Ciel once he stands. You grab him by the neck and smush his face into your chest. A blush creeps upon the young Earl's cheek as he pushes you away. And though it took some time, he finally got you to let go. He clears his throat and pulls the ring from the box he had not yet presented to you till now. Beautiful raven blue gems excavate the interior of the silver rings. Family colors as beautiful as ever, you think. After placing the ring on your finger, you help Ciel place the other on his ring finger, as he always keeps it on his thumb. You had wondered why he didn't wear it tonight. You now have your answer, and darling, were you pleased with it? Young master, I do believe you made a selfish choice tonight, Sebastian says, as he and his young master head back to the carriage, with you steps ahead of them, skipping. Ciel scowls. Oh, shut up, will you? Not bothering to even look Sebastian's way. I'm just relaying what you told me, young master, but I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. He bows. Of course not. He spits. Yes, because even if they piss him off sometimes, Ciel, the cold-hearted Ciel Earl Phantomhive, has a soft spot for his servants. That extends to Sebastian as well, something that Earl would kindly like to forget. But you have to admit, Sebastian says, reminding Ciel of what pushed him to actually pop the question. Yes, I very well know why I did it. Ciel thinks, and yes, the thought still disgusts him. The thought of her with someone else. Ciel scoffs, then looks toward you in your happy days, which immediately turns to annoyance once you realize the tabloids will be all over you for the next few months. He smirks and narrows his eyes. What rubbish. Oh god, okay, can I just, bloody hell, this was a roller coaster. When I tell you, I started this in like 5 months ago, and I swear to god, I did not know I would finish it during this summer. What the hell? It's just like been here because it was so long, and like I wrote this like, I don't know, I wrote this like 10 months, I don't know how long I wrote this ago, but I wrote it a long time ago, and like I never got around to reading it, and then like I started reading it, but like only a little bit at a time. Does that make sense? That's why the audios kind of sound super different from each other, because like I'd read them months at a time, and just because the chapters are so long, but it was only 4 chapters, which is so weird to me. And just like finishing this, it's like a moment for me, because I put a lot of effort into this, so I wanted to take a moment and just be grateful and thankful. I don't know. Oh god. But yeah, this was requested like, oh god, I don't know, but a long time ago, and so I was like, okay, alright, a Ciel Black Butler one, because somebody asked for it, and I never, oh my god, dude, August 2021, it's 2022, oh my god, I wrote this last year, oh my god, I wrote this so long ago, because I'm just reading the only comment right here, and it's like, it was published August 10, 2021. Oh my god, can you guys believe that? I wrote this at the beginning of like the school year. Shit, I wrote this at the beginning of the school year. That is crazy. Oh my god. This is such a moment. Okay, I'm rambling. Oh my god. Okay, but yeah, whoever listened to this, thank you so much for staying for my little ramble or whatever. You guys, okay. Okay, have a good day, night, afternoon, whatever. Goodbye.